Hello guys, welcome to part 2 of the Punky Poplar. Thank you very much for all the tips and hints that I got regarding how to fix this. In the end, it turns out that simply letting the wood dry is a very big help already. At this moment I have already processed the outside. That is, I've put a gouge against it once more, and then I simply started sanding. That's really a breeze because the wood is it's dust as soon as the sandpaper touches it, but the surface is not so bad. My camera really shows everything. If you look at it with your normal pair of eyes, it doesn't look half as bad. So I'm going to do the same to the inside, sand it again, and then I'm going to do an experiment with coloring. I've tilted the headstock somewhat, and I fastened the set screws on the chuck, meaning that it can run in reverse, which is what I am intending to do, because that will give me the easiest reach down into the bowl, and I can fairly easy access the side here and also the bottom like this. At least that's what I hope. If it gives me problems with the bottom, I can always reverse the direction and set up my tool rest in the normal orientation. I'm going to do, like I said, and reverse to normal turning direction for the bottom. As you see, it's even possible to scrape this. And I had left a good amount of wood, but now I'm at the point where I shouldn't take any more wood off, so the rest is sanding. Normally I don't show that because it's time consuming and boring, but here I'd like to show at least the beginning of it, so that you can see how easily this wood sands now. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to see, only that the dust comes off fairly easily. I'll do the rest off camera and bring you back when it's time to put on the colors. Okay, I've put a light on this side. Not sure if that helps. I'm going to paint only the outside. It's water thin, and that means it's absorbed very much into the wood. So it sticks, and if you sand it, you get this effect where it goes into the grain much more on one spot than in the other. But to make that visible, you obviously have to sand it, which is the next stage. But I think that will have to wait until tomorrow at least. This outside was already sanded up to 320. I'm going to go over it again now with 400 and perhaps even higher grids, depending on the result. And then I think to make it, to finalize it, some Yorkshire grit or beeswax. Stay tuned. The ink, because that's what it is, has dried, and I put on a thin coat of Yorkshire grit. Seems like the wood is absorbing that quite heavily too. So I needed quite a bit to get the whole outside done. And now I'm going to try and see what happens when I polish that in. Yes. Well, still pretty green. So the Bosslady thought it might be a good candidate to put on some, what is it? Liming wax. And when she says I should put on some liming wax, then of course that's what I do. I have a whole container of this stuff, and so far I think I have used it only once. So this is supposed to be put on just like I did now, and then after it cures, the excess is supposed to be wiped off. And for the inside, I'm going to use a coat of shellac based sanding sealer. I've sanded this now up to 320 and blown it off with compressed air. And even though I'm putting a liberal amount of sealer on my brush, it hardly drips off. It gets sucked into the wood straight away. This is the stick of beeswax that I normally use for that. It turns out to be not an easy task to make this punky poplar wood shine. The wax on the outside didn't really do what I was hoping it to do. So I've sanded everything down as best as I could. And as a final or last resort, I should say, I'm going to give it a few coats of tung oil. Thus far, that has never disappointed me when it comes to creating the shine that I'm looking for. And here we are back again at the Punky Poplar bowl. I think there are very few bowls that I made thus far on which I spent so much time finishing. And I think it's about time to give up now after 5 coats of tung oil. And it's still not as shiny as I would like it, but this is going to be the end of the road for this. It has to stop somewhere, and this one stops here. I'll give it a brief polish with some shavings, and then that will be as good as it gets. This is the end of the road for the Punky Poplar bowl. It doesn't weigh very much, but it's It feels pleasant in your hands. The outside has become very smooth, but you better not look too much at the bottom. On the inside I managed to get it fairly smooth, except for the tear out here in the sides. Not sure if you can see that. Yeah, a bit of the green has seeped through, but to my defense I can only say that the color wasn't my idea. So what do we learn from this one? For one, I think the wood is turnable after all, if you let it dry very well before you start turning. And the next one that I'm going to do, I will make sure that I have some wood hardener at hand before I start with the finishing, because that may help to get a better result in the really bad areas. So I'm going to take it inside, and I will show it to the Bosslady, because it's in the end as much her project as it is mine. She wanted to have the green on it, and she also told me to put this limey wax on. Not sure if that's an improvement, but yeah, okay. But it's definitely a usable bowl. So in the end, a success after all. Thank you all for bearing with me on this one.